get religion out of politics or get politics out of religion. There's a widespread view that they don't mix, and that religion's doing a great deal of harm. But is that true? Given that religion deals with the big issues of life around humanity, what it means to flourish as a human and as a society, should we be able to separate them? Can they actually be separated?
Well, Steve, we're going to find out. Religion and politics, they say you shouldn't talk about religion, politics, and sex around the dinner table. Well, we're going to take two of those anyway and have a look at how they mix. Well, Steve, I know that you love The West Wing, and I think I've just finished watching all 7 series for the 7th time. So I am a real West Wing aficionado. In fact, I should have worn my West Wing t-shirt for this. But we're going to play a clip of The West Wing, which I am going to, don't get too upset at it. You do have to set it in context, and that's series 7. This is, I believe, around episode, no, this is season 6, and this is episode 20, and it's entitled In God We Trust. And here's a clip of it towards the end.
Reached an agreement on the debt ceiling bill. We will pass it within the hour and send it to the president for his signature before midnight.
What about the minimum wage amendment?
We've agreed to have a separate vote on the minimum wage increase tomorrow.
Is it going to pass?
Yes, it will. I'll vote for it, and I guarantee you there'll be more than enough bipartisan support to pass it.
Senator, are you going to reconsider Reverend Butler's invitation to his church this weekend?
I fully respect Reverend Butler's position. I mean, I appreciate his invitation. And, look, I respect Reverend Butler. And I respect his church too much to use it for my own political purposes. And that's exactly what I'd be doing if I went down there this Sunday. Because the truth is, it would just be an act of political phoniness. I may be wrong, but I suspect our churches already have enough political phonies in them.
Senator, do you or do
I
you
don't see
not?
how we can have a separation of church and state in this government. If you have to pass a religious test to get in this government. And I want to warn everyone in the press and all the voters out there. If you demand expressions of religious faith from politicians, you are just begging to be lied to. They won't all lie to you, but a lot of them will. And it'll be the easiest lie they ever had to tell to get your votes. So every day until the end of this campaign, I'll answer any question anyone has on government. But if you have a question on religion, please go to church. Thank you.
Senator Vinnick. Senator.
Well, first of all, Dave, yeah, I'd have to say that's exactly why I don't like The West Wing, because it seems like it's full of sermons. Alan Alda pauses after his very obviously journalistic piece to give a bit of a sermon. But that's beside the point. I always think it's full of sermons, don't you?
No, you just because you haven't watched the whole thing, so you can't judge it until you. I basically give you the sermon bits because you're a preacher and you enjoy the sermons. Let me explain to you what's happening there. Alan Alda is the Republican candidate. Actually, he's brilliant, and in the sort of real world, he would have won it by a mile. But this is West Wing is kind of progressive fantasy, so you can never. It's a world in which Republicans never ever win anything. So he doesn't win. That's not a spoiler. Although I'm told they did have 2 separate endings. But one of the issues that came up there was the whole question of religion. And basically, he's a Republican who's an atheist, but he can't say it. And so that's what that wee thing was about there.
Well, that's interesting. Can a politician in the United States, or could an atheist ever be president? Do you think that religion and politics do mix? Like we've seen the last 4 years in America. Tell me, is it a toxic mix or is it a supposedly helpful mix?
I think in America it's a toxic mix, and I think it's toxic for the church, actually. I think it has been toxic for the church. I think there are exceptions. By definition, they do mix because, I'm interested in so many things as a Christian, that affect society. The Bible teaches so many things that affect society. Every society has a philosophy. So they do mix. But the idea that you elect somebody according to their perception of faith, in that clip there, I think Alda is right, pointing out that it just leads to hypocrisy. Of course it leads to hypocrisy. I can't remember what the current figures are, but a couple of years ago, I think there's 630 odd members of Congress, and not one of them was an atheist. You know, and I'm sorry, I don't believe that.
No.
You know, so I mean, it does encourage hypocrisy when you start doing a religious test for politics.
So why shouldn't candidates be questioned about their faith? Do you think they should or shouldn't?
Well, I think they can be, as long as it's fair. So here in Australia, Scott Morrison was asked if he thought certain people went to hell. Now, and in the UK, Tim Farron, the Liberal leader, was asked about sin. And I thought, well, it's good that the journalist believes in sin, and it's good that the journalist believes in hell, except they don't. They were mocking. They weren't. And what they were doing there was they're doing the opposite of what we see in the United States is, oh, you're religious. Oh, you're a Christian. Well, that's how can you possibly be elected? There was something called the Test Act. I'm going to test your history. Do you know what the Test Act was?
No, you're testing my history already. My history goes back to about 78.
Okay. Yeah, as long as your beard. Look, the Test Act was in 1673, where in order to vote and to be part of public society, you had to sign up, in effect, to the Church of England.
Yeah.
And it was only in 1828 and 1829 that dissenters and Catholics were released from that. Do you know, the sad and the bizarre thing is that in modern society, we've got a reverse Test Act. I think there is a religious test. And I think if a candidate, for example, said, well, my faith, for example, as a committed Catholic, unlike Biden, I'm opposed to abortion. Well, that's it. You can't be elected. You can't stand on our ticket. If someone said, I'm opposed to transgender ideology, Amnesty International says political privileges should be withdrawn from them, which is really quite extraordinary. So I think that we've reversed that situation where, what was it, Tony Blair's spin doctor, Dr. Alistair Campbell said, what was it?
We don't do religion.
We don't do God.
We don't do God. Yeah. And now,
if you do God, you don't get elected. So I think if you're going to ask people about their faith, that's fine. It's like asking them about, well, it's not quite like asking them about their beard, but it is, don't say to them, well, if you have a particular faith, then you cannot be elected.
Yeah. So it's talking about worldviews, really. Everyone's got a perspective of how the world is put together. And the secular frame would say ours is the neutral position from which everyone must form their opinion, where really the secular framework is just as much a totalizing worldview as any religion is.
And it's worse because it doesn't have the bigger view. So the Christian worldview would say, well, look, politics is part of life, but it's not all of life. Mm. And there are things that the state cannot do. The state cannot tell us what to think or what, we say within our own homes and so many other things. So there's a freedom involved in that, in separation of church and state. But what's happening in today's society is the state is replacing God as well. So the state is becoming totalitarian and all in all. Mm. And we see that in different ways. So in Victoria, for example, the proposed legislation on anti-conversion therapy, which is nothing to do with anti-conversion. It's all to do with repressing particular philosophies that go against the state philosophy. If I was to say, no, I'm not going to help my child get transgender hormone treatment, which I think, that's abusing their body, I'm not going to help that, then in the new Victorian era, I could go to jail for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And I think that's putting a philosophical stroke religious test not on politicians just, but on all of us, on the electorate as well.
Mm. So what would the Bible say about these sort of things, David, about the mix of politics and religion?
It gives us some basic principles. So I would apply, say, John 18:36, where Jesus says, my kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my servants would fight to prevent my arrest by the Jewish leaders. But now my kingdom is from another place. And I think that separation, that distinction is really important. Also, another aspect of that is when Jesus said, give to Caesar what is Caesar's and to God what is God's. And that was done in the context of the Pharisees trying to get him involved in a political question. So I think I think those are important things, but there's a lot more to it than that. And you and I spend a lot of time thinking about these things, and they're important issues. But I think we need to get the basic principles right.
Yeah. So what is it now? Call to action? Is it to the barricades, or is there something else we should do?
Yeah. Come on, the workers. No, I would say we pray. Those of us who are Christians, we pray. We need to think about things, and I think we act. I think we should be politically active, but I don't think there is one Christian political position. So, may God be with you, and may your politics, as Dave Allen said, go with you as well.
So what about next week? Have we got something lighter, given the year that we've had? What are we going to do next week?
Oh, I think we'll do Christmas, and I think we'll have a discussion about Christmas and what it all involves. And
are you a Christmas Grinch, by the way?
I am totally. I'm a Scot. I like New Year, and Christmas in kind of summer is weird. There's no snow, and we all know that Jesus was born with snow falling all around. But we'll do that next week.
Yeah. See you later, Dave.
See ya.